Hey, welcome to the VR Aperture, your source for the most detailed news in virtual reality and reviews from an engineer's perspective. I am desTroyTroy, and I will be your host of the Aperture. This week we'll be reviewing the Quest 2. But first we'd like to start off by saying that we urge you to stick it out through the end of the video. This review may not end the way it starts off, and in addition, there's no better way to support this channel than by watching the videos in their entirety. It's better than a like, it's better than a subscription. So if you like this channel, that's how you can support us. If you'd like to see us disassemble this into a bunch of little pieces, hit the like button, leave a comment having something to do with disassemble. Moving on with the review, the Quest 2. So we figured the best place to start off is the overall appearance of the new VR kit by Oculus. It is a very nice, sleek design, very lightweight, very small form factor. In fact, it's lighter and smaller than the previous Quest. It comes in at about 1.1 pounds. It's a very nice white color, which is good and bad in that it looks modern, but it's prone to getting dingy, obviously white. And it is a mesh strap, so it's fabric. It's going to pick up that dirt. It's not going to be very easy to wash. The head strap does come off, but I don't know about putting this in the washing machine, but you can take it off to wash. But compared to the other straps, like the Index, black stripe maintains its new appearance. Somewhat also with the old HTC Vive here we have, still relatively good looking despite its old age. Now, while we're talking about straps, I was looking forward specifically myself to going back to a mesh strap. The Index is nice with its very rigid design and crank down knob, and it's a very nice comforting fit, but sometimes it can be a bit too rigid and push on certain pressure points around your head. The HTC Vive, in my opinion, had the most comfortable strap. It had a cup for the back of the head instead of just one strap around the back like the Quest 2 has. As you can see here, there's no cup for the back of the head. And even the Oculus Go, very simple VR headset, it's really not for gaming, it's more for viewing experiences, has a sort of cup to the back of the head. This makes for a less than optimal fit in that regard. Where the strap connects to the visor, it has kind of a rigid rotation here, a stiff rotation, which is also good and bad. The good part is that the strap will allow for you to apply more or less pressure to your forehead versus below the eyes. So if you're more sensitive below the eyes, you have sensitive sinuses, you can relieve some of that pressure by adjusting the straps in a more upward position. The bad part is it makes it a little bit more difficult to adjust for your head because there is no rigid strap that connects the two ends, the two sides, so it is possible to have one higher than the other very easily. And I find that I oftentimes get an uneven amount of pressure from the left to the right side. What they chose for the adjustment, these buckles, it's a hard plastic tube, basically rod, and it does push on the back side of the head. Out of the people who are involved in the collaboration of this channel, pretty much everyone noticed the hard feeling of these buckles on the back of the head, even some of us with longer hair. Myself more because I have short hair, so that was a bit of a source of discomfort. The face mask itself is fairly easily removed. And it's fairly comfortable. One thing about it, it picks up cat hair like a magnet, and it's hard to get it off. It really sticks in there, and so you'll be wearing it and you're like, the cat hair. So if you have a cat, look forward to that. Also, this does come, we don't have it up here, but there's an extra little about 2mm spacer that snaps into this to give additional room for people who wear glasses. So that was taken into consideration. Like I said, fairly reasonable to get in and out. Snaps in and out. Snaps in and out. Nothing like the index, of course, which is magnetic. And that is super simple. But, you know, once again, like we've mentioned, well, actually we mentioned in this video, we mentioned in the unboxing, but this is $299. So, you know, a simpler strap, a little bit more difficult mass to get in and out, you know, buckles instead of Velcro, like maybe the HTC Vive here has Velcro, which would be a much better plan. Same as the Go, Velcro. On the index, of course, very expensive headset. It's a knob that tightens and loosens, but they have Velcro on the top, so I don't know if they're really saving money by using buckles. It's more difficult to adjust these buckles because they're tight against the head, and it's prone to pulling your hair. Also trying to adjust it while it's on, which of course you're going to want to do, is adjust it while it's on. That's kind of difficult with these buckles. In addition to the fact that being, you know, slightly to moderately uncomfortable. But we kind of digress. We were on the subject of the mask, and it is reasonably comfortable. Of course, you always have the option to get an aftermarket from, like, let's say VR Cover. They make face masks for basically every VR headset there is. But also one more thing, the lens housing protrudes quite a bit, and for some of us that contribute to the production of this channel, the lens housings, when you would turn your head, would sometimes bang into your nose, and that's a slight source of discomfort. Once again, a $299 headset, so you know, there are some compromises. And of course, what everyone wants to know about the most, the resolution. The resolution is quite high. It's amazing considering the price. The resolution is 1832 by 1920, and that's for a $299 headset, which is a higher resolution than even the Valve Index, which was released just the previous year. It has a resolution of 1440 by 1600, and the Index is hundreds of dollars more expensive than the Quest 2, being a high-end VR headset. So it's really not a fair comparison to make between these two headsets, but yet the resolution is comparable. But I have to say, resolution and picture quality are not the same thing. Though the resolution is higher on the Quest 2, the picture quality is not better than the Valve Index. Specifically when you're using it wirelessly, it's good. It's impressively good for a $299 headset. If you're just getting into VR now, there's been no better time. I started on the HTC Vive, and I was blown away at the time, but it had obvious artifacts, an obvious screen door effect. The screen door effect on the Quest 2 is minimal. It's nearly negligible, but it's still there. When you use the Oculus Link cable for the Quest, you start closing that gap between the picture quality, the graphical quality between the Quest 2 and the Index. The Index is still better. That's mostly in part to the fact that the Index is connected by, it's leveraging the graphics card of your gaming PC, so your Quest 2 is gaining that advantage, but it's over a USB cable versus the index HDMI cable. USB is just not rated for the data transfer required for a true HD picture. So they use compression on the picture, and no picture or audio is ever as good once it's been compressed and restored uncompressed. So, but the fact that they're even close is incredible, being, once again, hundreds of dollars difference in price. At least one content creator on YouTube has claimed that the Quest 2 was a slight bump in visual fidelity over the index. I can't disagree more. The index is still better, though the difference is once you're connected, not using the wireless feature and using the Oculus Link, those differences are minimal. The IPD adjustment doesn't allow for a smooth motion like the index has a slider. The previous Quest had a slider. Even the index uses a knob, which is a smooth motion. The Quest 2 uses step-based adjustments. And only 3, when we saw the demo, we just assumed when they were showing 3 that it was just edited. But in fact, there are only 3 positions. And so it may be difficult for some to get that perfect sweet spot. From my experience in sharing VR with many others, most people are right in that middle setting range, so it should be suitable for most people. If you're in between those two, you're gonna have you may not get that perfect sweet spot. Though another content creator made the assertion that you can finagle the lenses halfway in between positions. But if you have one headset in a household and you're sharing and you're having a VR night, it's going to be very inconvenient to go from one person to the other and have to fit your headset, make your IPD adjustment, and then if you're in the middle of you have to fuss with it and get it right in the middle. That's not going to be convenient for you if you're one of the unlucky people who fall in between those discrete IPD settings. The field of view of the Quest 2 is considerably narrow. You get quite a bit of that binocular effect where it blocks out quite a bit of your peripheral vision. And the refresh rate, though, claimed to be 90 hertz on the web page, seems to still be in experimental mode for the Quest 2. And from what we can tell is at 72 hertz, except for when the feature's turned on and you're in your home environment or select apps. It will soon come to the rest of the games and applications, but for the time being, it's not 90 hertz. So it's at 72. It's actually a lower refresh rate, supposedly, than the original Quest. And then the display of the Quest 2 is an LCD. We've talked a lot about this before. The LCD, if you need an example, is what the old calculator is made of. That's a liquid crystal display. Previous generations of headsets were using OLED. OLED is a top technology amongst Ultra HD screens. They have been going with LCD not because of its price, like some people have gotten confused, but because LCD screens offer a lower persistence. And we've talked about this multiple times, but just a quick refresh. Low persistence just has to do with the snappiness going from frame to frame within the display. That when you move from one frame to the next, the picture clicks off and the next one clicks off on immediately and gives you eliminates kind of ghost images when you turn your head quickly. Also, people have claimed that with LCD you don't get as deep of blacks in the display. We've had OLED and LCD displays and without noticing a huge difference. Some people have claimed that they've actually had to get adjusted to the difference. I don't know that I would say it's that stark. What really stands out is the jump in resolution from one generation to the next is so dramatic with VR headsets that I don't even ever think about the fact that, how black is that black. With that being said, I did try to take particular notice about that with the Quest 2 because I know we're going to get asked about that, and it did always seem that in scenes of games or different apps, experiences, that when you're in the dark, it never really seemed like the dark. It just was like an illuminated black. I don't know how to explain it very well. It just, you never really ever felt like you're in the dark. The Index, on the other hand, you can feel like, for example, Five Nights at Freddy's, like you're completely in the dark. And when those teddy bears or animatronics jump out at you, it really gives you a jolt. And so I wouldn't chalk it up all the lack of darkness or the depth to the blacks in the Quest 2 to it being LCD. I would just say that it's to chalk up to being a $299 headset. With that being said, we've already said, that I don't really feel that there's a stark difference. I don't think it really detracts too much from your experience. The colors do seem a little bit more washed out when you're in a darker atmosphere, but when you're in a well-lit atmosphere, the colors seem perfectly saturated, nice, bright, vibrant colors for the most part. It doesn't, once again, compare to high-end PC VR. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the cool features with the Quest 2. Some of them still in experimental mode. For example, when you double tap the side of the headset, it will automatically go into the pass-through camera view, so you can easily navigate in a moment your real-world surroundings if necessary without the use of controllers. The Guardian system, if you step outside of your defined Guardian boundaries, it will automatically go to pass-through mode, so it'll help you, which is a great idea. Instead of hitting a holographic wall and just passing through it and still seeing more of just empty space or whatever application you're in, you actually step out of VR and into a black and white rendition of your natural surroundings. So that can be very useful in avoiding obstacles. It can also makes it very easy for you to go and grab something from the refrigerator. You just walk right out of the bounds and suddenly you can see all your surroundings and go to the fridge, come right back. Seamless. The Quest 2 has an almost instantaneous sleep mode for the display. The moment you take it off your head, the displays go out. And so that's good in that it's going to help try and preserve battery life as much as possible, which, to tell you, the battery life is very short. It's just over 2 hours. So if you're expecting long gameplay with this, it's not going to happen. There is an Elite strap with a battery pack, but we're going to talk about more about that in a moment. The problem with the sleep mode is you can't take the headset off for a moment without it readjusting your sitting position. So if you're sitting down and playing a game and you take off the headset and put it on the table for a moment, and then 5 seconds later you put it back on, it will readjust the sitting position, and it may not get it when you get it back on your head. It may be when you first pick it up from the table, it may be just before you get it on. And so specifically this has been a problem for us in, let's say, Star Wars Squadrons, where you have a high console and you need to see over it to do your dogfighting, and you reset, you take a moment, you pause the game, take a moment, take it off, put it back on, and now your center console is way up here, or your body is out here and you're way out from your console, and that can be frustrating. There's a few ways to reset your seated position. You can hold the Oculus button down on the controllers, which is on the other controller. You can hold this down, depress it, and it'll reset it. But if you are using the Oculus Link to play Steam VR, it doesn't work. Another option is to press the button on the side, just tap it, this display goes out, you tap it again, the display comes back. That sometimes fixes it, but amongst the people who collaborate for this channel, we've all had varying levels of success with both methods. And if you want to go into the menu, open up your menu like you might with the index and go and hit readjust seated position, it's not there. You can go and find reset the Guardian boundaries, which will accomplish the same thing, but it's a more tedious, I won't say difficult, but it's a lengthier process than just hitting a button and having your seated position reset. So that was kind of a point of annoyance for us. Once again, $299 headset. Can't complain too much, right? And one other thing we had trouble with was the casting. We still have not got the casting to work for the Quest 2 for a PC VR headset. It's automatic. When a game launches, it opens a window so your audience, your family can see and sit and experience what you're experiencing through your regular widescreen television. With the Quest 2, it does the casting to your mobile device, and we just have not gotten that to work. We tried it with one phone. It would just continually crash, the app would crash. Went and got an entirely new phone, a better phone, in the exact same experience. And of course we talked to Oculus tech support and they said, well, have you tried uninstalling and reinstalling the phone? I'm like, no, but we tried buying a whole new phone entirely. And they're like, well, can you still try uninstalling and reinstalling the application? Let's talk about the tracking. The hand tracking is quite handy, to excuse the pun, if you need to just get in and change a menu or maybe start a download or adjust something within the visor. You don't have to pull out the headset. We do this a lot because we do testing. We launch different apps or we change settings and try something, or we have OBS or we're trying to capture something. It's really nice to just be able to use your hands to navigate, drag, drop, select. And the one complaint though we would have is that the stylus always seems to be kind of pointed in the up position. So if you need to go and hit a bottom menu, sometimes the table you're sitting at will prevent you from hitting that menu, and you can't rotate the stylus down. If Oculus, you're listening, add that to your hand tracking, the way for you to actually rotate the stylus, make it a lot easier to use. The controller tracking, we're quite surprised. Hand tracking does not, or I'm sorry, the inside out tracking does not have the best track record. Apparently Oculus has now basically perfected it. We have tried everything we could to make the headset lose tracking with the controllers, and only under very special circumstances with a lot of effort were we able to achieve that. So one of the things we tried was taking the headset and rotating it back behind our head or body and then bringing it back and doing it quickly or slowly and at varying speeds to see if it would take a moment to regain the tracking once the controller came back in sight. But no, by the time the controller is in view of your display, it has that tracking reestablished. I don't know how they do it. If it ever loses the tracking, they've employed some really high-tech ways of algorithms and I think even machine learning to track these headsets, controllers, even when they're not in the headset's view, and they've done an amazing job. We were able to force a little bit of controller occlusion, and that's when you have one controller blocking the view of another controller. This sometimes it happens in first-person shooter games where you're using a rifle-style weapon and you're holding a pistol grip, front and rear pistol grips, and you can occlude one controller from the other, and as you rotate, it may lose tracking momentarily. It regains that tracking though very quickly. We haven't tried any first-person shooters. It takes, it hasn't been something we spent a lot of time in. But we can see that this is probably not going to be much of an issue for people who are fond of first-person shooters. We've always been an advocate of sensor-based, external sensor tracking because of the times a lot of games require you to reach behind your head to pull things out of your virtual backpack. And that's one of the cases where oftentimes headsets lose tracking, or just rotating behind your head if you're moving like this, maybe playing Beat Saber. But we can't really say anything bad about the tracking. We've kind of been converted. We always have felt that having lighthouse sensors is absolutely necessary to have a great VR experience as it goes to controller tracking, but that's really not the case anymore. They've done an amazing job with that. So we applaud you on that, Oculus. Another thing we applaud is the battery life of the controllers. Now, the controllers never turn off. They go to sleep when they're not in use, and we suspect that they go to sleep quite quickly. They've really employed some high-tech programming in these controllers to maintain the battery life, because with the previous Quest, it was reported battery life would be as low as 2 hours for the controllers. I think 4 hours max. The battery life on these controllers at this point is unknown, because despite having used it for the past 2 weeks, the battery still reports to be at 100%. So maybe when we do an update video in a few weeks down the line, we can finally tell you how long it took to get down to 99%. So don't know how they accomplished it. I wonder if it'll just one day go from 100 to 0. It'll be curious to see, but we'll have to get back to you on that one. Some of the features of the controller is that it does have index and thumb tracking. So not only does the tracking have recognize and animate the finger when you depress the button, but when it makes contact with it, and every degree in between is very smooth motion, and it animates your finger exactly to the millimeter. And even this added wide area that it's new to the Quest 2 controllers, this is what they refer to as the thumb rest. We weren't quite sure what they were talking about at first, but it is this extra little bit of area. And even this area over here tracks the thumb. It will animate your avatar's thumb when it's in that position. We also mentioned the thumbstick, which has a very snappy feel. It seems perfectly durable and likely to have a lot of life to it, but we'll just have to let you know about that in an update video for sure. But it has a very good feel to it. You can hear it snapping back. There's a good, nice feel. The top of the thumbstick is nicely textured, kind of an anti-slip, and the battery cover is very securely attached, so you don't have to worry about playing Beat Saber and having it come free. It's very well attached. We also have the tethers so you don't throw your controllers through the television as well. Moving on to the audio, we'd actually forgotten that it even came with headphones, and they're so low profile, you didn't even notice until we got it out of the box and took a closer look that the headphones are built in right there. They're a little bit spaced away from how they line up with the ear. They don't quite reach all the way. So the audio is easily drowned out. It's not right over the ear. So anyone watching TV or taking a loud shower with the door open will even drown out your gameplay. And so it's not optimal, but it's perfectly adequate especially for a quiet room. The audio is reasonably good. I've heard other reviewers say that it's actually bad. We wouldn't say it's bad. There obviously is a complete lack of bass in these tiny little speakers. That's kind of to be expected, especially, the fact that you got audio with the headset at all at $299 is quite generous. You also have the option for 3.5 millimeter. If you want an alternative option, use your alternative option. We use a wireless, which works amazingly. We've heard some people say there's a bit of a delay from the audio on the 3.5, but we actually can't speak to that directly. But the audio also has fairly good 3D spatial audio, so you can tell the source of the audio coming to you, the source of the sounds. It was pretty good at that. Storage on the base model of the Quest 2 is 64 gigabytes. The upgraded model for $399 is 256 gigabytes. We got the 64 gigabyte version, like we mentioned in our unboxing, or in the announcement video we mentioned, because we wanted to test what most people were likely going to buy, and we wanted to be able to say to you whether or not 64 gigabytes is a reasonable space for a visor these days with the size of games. Now, to give you a bit of a feel of how far 64 gigabytes of storage space will take you, the Quest 2 system files take up over 11 gigabytes of that 64, so automatically you're down below 53 gigabytes. And then just one application wasn't even a game, it was just a virtual experience, mixed kind of experience, Vader Immortal, that was 3.66 gigabytes, and that was about an hour's worth of content, not even a full game. And not even a long game or long experience, about an hour. Not only did that take up 3.66 gigabytes, but it also took about 40% of the battery life of the headset to get through that one, a little over 40% to get through that experience. So there's compromises in this headset for sure. But once again, $299, right? So obviously there's going to be some uninstalling of content to make room for more content, and this is not an uncommon practice, especially for PC games. You have a fast download speed. It's not too big of a deal to have your top 10 games installed at any given time, and you rotate games in and out from your top 10, the games you're playing most frequently at the moment. The problem with the Quest 2 in doing that is that, from our experience, has a very, very slow download speed. If you've had a different experience than we did, please leave a comment below. But we found, give you some reference, it's pretty typical to have a 50 megabits per second download speed for home internet. We have 200 megabits per second here, but even with the headset right up next to the router, we were only getting about 8 to 16 megabits per second. And so you think of Vader Immortal being 3,660 megabytes in size, and you're getting about 1 or 2 megabytes per second. That's roughly an hour download for an hour's worth of content. So you won't be switching your games in and out of rotation in any quick fashion. You'll have to select what games you want to uninstall what games you're retiring for the moment, select the games you're going to download or play in the near future, and then put the headset down while powered on and leave it there for hours. We're not sure why it has such a low download speed. It might be something that's unique to our experience, so please leave a comment below. I want to go back for a moment to our unboxing video, and we were pretty kind of amazed that it seemed ready right out of the box. The headset, this is all there is to it. There's no setups, no sensors to set up, no cords, cables, boxes, whatnot. This is all there is to it. And even the controllers came with batteries included, which all you need to do is remove a strip. And we're like, wow, we could feel like we could get playing immediately. That was not the experience. And we said in the previous video that we were going to talk more about this. In order to get going, once you're powered on, you first have to have created your Oculus account, and you'll have had to have created a Facebook account. From the news, that information that we had gathered, Facebook was not going to require this merge between your Facebook profile and your Oculus profile until 2022, but apparently starts now with the Quest 2. And so we had to create that Oculus profile as mentioned, create a password and username, create a Facebook account because I didn't have one prior to this, and so I had to create one, and part of that required your name, date of birth, gender, phone number, email address, and you had to link a credit card or your PayPal account. Required. Headset would not work without the merging of those accounts or without your credit card information. You can't just say, oh, I'll put in that information when I go to make a purchase. It doesn't work that way. Then once we were all done with that, we had login issues. So we had merged our Oculus account with our Facebook account, so we can no longer log in to the headset with the Oculus account, but Facebook hadn't recognized that it had been merged yet, so we couldn't log in with our Facebook account either. And it took about, including the time it took us to try and avoid in every possible way in merging those accounts, the total time we spent getting it set up and ready to play was 2 hours. And we know that this is a real controversial issue right now, and there's talk all over the place, and every content creator has spoken about this. We don't want to get too deep into it, but we would like to mention a few things that we feel other people have not considered in this. One of them being children's privacy policy. First off, children below the age of 13 aren't allowed to create their own Facebook accounts. So if this was being bought for a child, you as a parent would have to link your Facebook account with your child's new device, and that they're integrating the messenger service into the visors. So it seems that all of your interactions that you have on Facebook will now be accessible by your under 13-year-old child. Now, and if you're a regular Facebook user and you don't always keep it politically correct, this may be a concern for you. Also, know that if your child is over the age of 13, and you just don't approve of Facebook for your child, maybe it gets in the way of their schoolwork, maybe you just don't agree on it in principle, and you've gotten one of these for your child, you're now forced to use it to sign up your child for it, or have them use your account, which may be just as undesirable. But the real interesting part of this that it's going to take some navigating is that because of new child privacy laws, YouTube has been drastically affected. So one of the things YouTube's doing to abide by new child privacy laws, because they're not allowed to accept personal identifying information of children, they are going to employ, you not only have to label your content now as 18 and over or for a general audience, which if you say it's 18 and over, precludes your videos from being advertised or being shown to anyone who's not logged into YouTube or does not have a YouTube account or is under the age of 18. So it will drastically affects the monetization of those channels. And then they're also employing an automated system to try and weed through videos to detect 18 and over content, and then make it nearly invisible to a large portion of the population, once again affecting that channel's monetization. So how is that going to work with the Quest 2? If everything you do in the Quest 2 is monitored, your voice, everything you say, everything you play, everything you click on, all the way down to your hand size, from what we hear, will be monitored. How do you abide, how do you square that with the new child laws? So things are, without getting into our own opinion on the matter, there are some things that are going to have to be squared away as far as this whole Facebook Oculus merge. So be ready for changes in the future if you've already got your Quest 2. And like we mentioned before, everything you do is tracked and monitored. So we strongly recommend against those who play a modded Beat Saber with custom songs to not play it on the Quest 2, because that may violate the terms of service, or likely does violate the terms of service of Facebook, and your account can be banned for that. So if you don't play it on the Quest 2, don't do it. We also wanted to mention that if you bought this for a child and they want to make a game purchase, know that the only way to ensure that you get the proper version of the game is to buy it, from our perspective, our experience, is from within VR. So, like we mentioned, your credit card or PayPal account is already linked, but when a purchase is finalized, you have to put in a PIN number. And in order to make that purchase, you have to put on the visor and then use the 3D keyboard and put in your PIN number. And if you're not interested in VR, or you don't like VR, you bought it for your child, you will have to put it on to finalize these purchases. We see no other way about it. Now, you can correct us if we're wrong in the comments, but we ordered some content from the Oculus app, and it didn't show up in the game library on the Quest 2. And so we contacted Oculus, said, hey, what's going on with this? We just purchased it, it's not showing up. It only shows up on the desktop. And they said, oh, well, you bought it for the wrong platform. What do you mean, to segue a little bit, what do you mean the wrong platform? It's the Oculus platform. Like, no, you bought it for the Rift platform. Like, wait a minute. It said the content we bought said compatible with the Rift, Rift S, and Quest. Now, we assume because at the time the visor had only been out, the headset had only been out for 2 days, that maybe they hadn't updated the details of all the games to say Quest and Quest 2. We figured if it works for the Quest, it works for the Quest 2. That was not true. That is not the reality. So games that are even compatible with the Quest may not be compatible with the Quest 2. And especially if they just say they're compatible with the Rift. This creates a bit of a problem, or a big problem, because this means that Oculus wants their headsets to be treated like video game consoles, where there is no expectation that the new console is going to be backwards compatible with your previous games. If you own a Rift, or even just a Quest, just the previous headset, last year's model, those games aren't going to be compatible with the Quest 2. But the big difference between an Oculus visor and a video game console like an Xbox or a PlayStation is that the life cycle of an Xbox or PlayStation is like 4 to 6 years. So you buy a game and it's good for 4 to 6 years. Oculus makes a new headset every year. So if next year you decide, or maybe the year after, you decide, I'm going to upgrade, all the content that you bought is likely not going to be compatible. You'll have to either rebuy all your games or just new content and go to your old headset to play your old content. But there's even yet one more aspect to this to put the cherry on top. There is a price difference between the same games and applications from the Quest to the Quest 2. And we're talking about games and applications that have been out for years. So for example, we went to get Virtual Desktop and saw from another content creator that he mentioned it was $20. And we're like, wait a minute, I just saw it on the Oculus store for $14. I'm like, well, I'm gonna buy it from there and save $6, right? Nope, wasn't compatible. We had to buy it, get it refunded and rebuy it, and through the Quest 2, and it was $20. So something that's been out for years, and they're charging more money for the Quest 2 than for any other Quest Oculus headset. And more than they charge on Steam VR. To give you a few more examples, Moss, if you've heard of the game Moss, is available right now as of the recording of this video for $19.99. For the Quest 2 is $29.99. Star Trek Bridge Crew, as of the recording of this video, is $24.99 on all Oculus headsets except for the Quest 2 is $29.99. And the big one, Arizona Sunshine, is $15.99 on all Oculus headsets except for the Quest 2, which is at $39.99. So you thought you got a great deal on your headset and you find out all the content is more expensive for it. So that's the trade-off. They probably are selling this for near zero profit margin and recouping their profit through the applications through an inflated price. So the question is, can we recommend the Quest 2? Well, if you're a fan of Facebook and you're a regular user of it, or you have no qualms with creating a Facebook account, then there's not a better time, like many other creators said, there's not a better time to get into VR. This is an amazing price. What you get for your money is amazing. It's obviously compromises in a lot of areas, but how are you going to complain at $299, right? This is probably, if you're new to VR and you want to find out whether or not you like VR, start with this. If you have no problem with having a Facebook account, then you could find out whether you like it and start investing in maybe a more higher end VR. But if you are opposed to Facebook, if you're not computer savvy and you don't know all about Facebook and how to set up accounts, you don't want to get involved with all of that or go through that rigmarole, or you have privacy concerns, you have read a few things and you're not feel totally confident in giving up that information to Oculus, to Facebook, then we can't recommend this headset to you. We're not going to give our personal opinion on Facebook. Just know those are the facts. These are the things that you have to go through. These are the steps. This is the privacy concerns you might have, just so you can be an informed buyer. In a nutshell, great headset, may not be for you. We want to go ahead and wrap up this review. We want to mention again that if you'd like to see us disassemble this into a bunch of little pieces, hit the like button, leave a comment having something to do with disassemble. If you plan on getting a Quest, we hope you enjoy it. If not, there's a lot of other great headsets in the work. We got the HP Reverb G2 coming out, and then also apparently there's another one in the works. They're coming out in May, so we'll provide you more information about that in the near future. But until then, have a great rest of your week. Leave that part out, Shelby. Forget it. I've talked enough.